Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to another edition of Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, our big mid-season super fan edition where you get to be part of the show. Joining me as always, fresh from his reviews of The Last of Us Part 2, it's Rob Stone.
What's up, everybody? Happy to be here. Talk about some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's going to be crazy. We got a lot to talk about today.
Indeed we do. And of course, on the far side of him, we have, as always, the Dawn of Ice and Fire himself, Mr. Don Willie.
Good evening, good night, good morning, and whenever you're watching this, to everyone out there, happy birthday, America, and happy Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. to all of you out there.
Indeed. All right, looks like we already got Corey and Barbaro here in the chat. All right, so like I mentioned, this is our special mid-season super fan edition. We're going to have you guys on the show. How we're going to do it is this way. We're going to start off, we're going to do a first little chat back and forth with us, just some brief coverage over with the show, and then in just a little while, I'm going to put a link up in the chat section. When you are ready, go ahead, click on that link. That's going to bring you into the StreamYard entry area. You can check your mic. You can add your name down there at the bottom of the screen. And then as soon as you're ready, hit the transmit button. You will pop in and I will bring you in and out. What we're going to do is just bring you into the discussion for a little while. Let you ask any question we have. We'll trade things back and forth. And then we'll start to rotate people in. So we'll try and get as many people in as we can. And also have a chance for everyone to sort of interact and such on the screen. So really excited to try this out. I can't guarantee everything will go smoothly, but we're going to do the best we can. All right, so let's start off with our impressions of this week's episode, a very big episode, our part 2, the kind of end of cliffhanger moment everyone captured. Dawn, why don't you give us your thoughts straight off? What did you think about this week's episode?
Very emotionally impactful. A lot of twists and turns. A couple of things that were, minor nitpicks to be had, but I think overall it left us in a place that it's like, well, what's going to happen next? How does the team come back from this as a team, and how are they going to be able to set right what is very, very wrong at this point?
Oh, for sure. It was a very, very hard end to the episode there. Rob, what are your quick impressions here of this week's episode?
Yeah, kind of the same. There's a few nitpicks here and there. I feel like we were coming off such a strong episode, I kind of feel a little let down. Mm-hmm. It's a good episode. There's a lot of things that like things get wrapped up a little too quickly. Things are explained a little too neatly. But we've got, the great interaction between Phil and Melinda that you brought up a lot more than I did in my review. It was really astute in how you were describing that, the way that story played out, and it was stuff that we needed to hear. But the stuff with Mac was really great. I love where we're headed with it. I was wrong that episode 7 is not going to be where we get all the answers, because they gave us most of the answers that we needed in very, very succinct, fashion, which I'm still not sure how I completely feel about, because it just was so just exposition done. This is what it is. And then we're moving on. But still no fits. And next week, I'm excited, like I said, that they will continue with the time travel. They are going to the 80s, but we don't it looks like it to be a mostly Deke and Mac episode, which is great. But with all the stuff from Short Circuit to Breakfast Club, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to the more what's going on in the show. But other than that, I think the only other major thing is, Coulson's superpower is dying, and man, did he really get to have another great Coulson moment that only Greg could give. So.
Indeed. Yeah, you got some agreement here in the chat as well. Also, Kevin joining us, Kevin Waters, Frank Cardinal, The Rich Room. So glad you guys could join us here. Corey's mentioning super busy episode, 4 different plot lines, lots to pack into under an hour. Barbaro, agreeing, it was an okay episode, good. But yeah, I can see that. I had mentioned the same thing. There was kind of a lot of stuff, and you know, they were able to handle it. They were able to juggle it, but I agree. There were a couple of things that looked like they were really going to go somewhere and then just sort of wrapped up, which again, there was a lot to sort of cover. But yeah, that did give us some really kind of interesting moments there. Well, let's talk real brief about the kind of big arc in this episode, and that's of course Mac. Mac with Yo-Yo heading in to try and rescue his family, and going through a whole bonding, kid with parent bonding moment right before the Shyamalan-like twist at the end, where we find out that they have been replaced with Chronicoms. That was kind of, was kind of a hefty gut punch there. I mean, are they just afraid they haven't given Henry Simmons enough stuff to do, that they've got to give him this painful emotional arc as Mac with his parents? Yo-Yo finally I guess it's the first time she got to meet his parents, but it wasn't really his parents. So yeah, what? I don't know. Rob, why don't you lead this one off? What did you think of the whole Mac arc? Did that sort of work for you? Did it sort of play itself outright, or what did you leave with that?
I thought that my initial feelings was that it was really cheesy, and I felt I would kind of have to agree a little bit with Haley's comment that it was not forced but uncharacteristic, because he was, about killing Malik. While it was kind of justified and like you don't know what you could have done if you did it, but then he just kind of, it felt real sitcom-y all of a sudden. Like, here's my girlfriend, you don't know me, but I'm gonna hug you. And but God. The thing was, what I feel like in the end was that they made us drop our guard. They made us feel compassionate for Mac and the situation that they were in. That like it or not, like whether he should be trying to be as touchy-feely with these people that don't know him. Mm-hmm. I think that by dropping our guard, by showing Mac's vulnerability, when the twist happened, it was way more impactful because of it. As an audience member, I didn't see it coming until it was too late. Usually I thought, because there's even the moment when he says, hey, how's your arm? And Yo-Yo did this thing with her arm right as he said that, like almost as if she thought he was talking to her, because earlier he made the comment about Daisy being gone and our strongest fighter being taken out. And that hurt her feelings. Like she was like, oh, like I'm nothing without my powers. He thinks lesser of me. And so we had all these things that were going on that made the twist have a deeper impact. So by the end of it, when it happened, and I made the joke that you've heard of throw mama from the train, well, here's throw mama from the plane. And it really was a lot. And him leaving totally made sense for me. He needed to take a break. And apparently he went a little too far away from the plane. But it really, at first, like I said, at first I thought it was cheesy, but I feel like the way that they did it was to catch us off guard. And in that respect, it did its job right.
I think you're right there. That twist was, again, even as a cheesy plotline, I thought the twist was very effective. Don, how did you think of Mac's little family journey this week?
I mean, listen, Mac is just not allowed to have nice things. You got to think about it, right? He lost his daughter Grace in the real world. Then he lost her again in the framework. Then, him and Yo-Yo's relationship deteriorated. I guess now they're kind of sort of back, right? And then it's like, oh, his parents get kidnapped. Oh, only to find out, no, they're not actually his parents. His parents have been skinned alive
Oh
and replaced by
no!
robots. I'm like, Mac is just allowed to have nice things. Um, and then, like, they kind of foreshadowed it a little bit when you see the mom rolling down the sleep. And I'm because the first thing I was thinking, right? Because I actually watched it twice. The first time I got distracted and I missed that he actually hurt his arm, right?
Right.
I just remember seeing the sleeve roll down. I'm like, okay, why are they focusing on the sleeve? And then mentioned it. But when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh. And then I thought about it. I was like, there aren't any bandages there. And if he hurt his arm, how come there's no blood on his sleeve? Right? Because
Right.
it's not that Agents of Shield doesn't show blood. Because I actually watched season 2 Inhuman arc like just last night, and Reyna killed like 3 people. There was blood all over the place. So it's not that Agents of Shield doesn't do blood. So I'm like, huh, this is interesting here that no one picked up on that before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that like, hey, okay, yeah, you cut your arm. You're wearing a white shirt, or at least a light gray or something like that. It's not like he's wearing a dark colored shirt that if it was a blood stain, it would easily, be covered just by the fact that you have on a very dark shirt. You're not really gonna see the red pop through.
Right.
This light colored shirt, that's like if I spilled some water on me right now, you're gonna notice that it turns a different color, versus on top of my hat. So,
Yeah.
I understand Mac was like, okay, cool. I'm in the moment. I've made this sacrifice play, but it all worked out. And
Right.
then when May hits him with the, hey, look, I felt nothing, like you saw the look in his eyes, like, oh, shit, come on, man. Like, no, please don't tell me this right now. And he's just like, May, come on, it can't be. All right, no. You have to be wrong. He wants to believe in his heart. Like this is he's had so much taken from him. And for first he's thinking, okay, it's his dad,
Mm-hmm.
and then he sees his mom attack Yo-Yo, and it's man, like he needed time to process that because again, like I'm pretty sure a lot of people weren't even thinking about the whole Grace thing. They're thinking about the parents thing. So imagine, he's like, yo, like he right now Mac has no family other
Right.
than the people who are aboard the Zephyr. Mac has no family, no biological relatives whatsoever. As far
Well,
as
he's got his brother though, right?
is his brother alive? I mean, listen, at this point,
that's fair enough. Also, chat seems to be thinking Mac's daughter was Hope, not Grace.
Oh, I did. Okay, sorry. I could have sworn her name was Grace. Huh. All right.
Either way, I'm right
Yeah.
there with you though. When May touched him and like another commenter said like I went white. When she touched him and said she felt nothing, I didn't want to believe it. I was like, no. That I was like right there with Mac. I did not want to hear it. And then so I felt that was bad enough. And then you think it's bad enough, and then the mother too, and I was just like, oh no. And when they just said they've been gone for a long time, it was so cold-blooded that it just, oh man, I'm surprised that he didn't like rip off his head. But man,
No.
it really, poor Mac.
I think Mac. they did again that really reveal I think was kind of effective. And for a moment, I just thought that was like, oh, it's his dad, not his mom. Did they just switch one of them? Of course, why would they do that when they could switch both? Which, of course, she was instantly revealed. And you're right. The fact that he was so instantly cruel about it. And I think part of that was also because they played really well. It wasn't just Mac asking, let me see your arm. No, let's look at it. It wasn't a quick thing. I mean, they did it like 3 or 4 times. I mean, he sort of was like, hey, let me just do it. Come on. Like, again, like you had mentioned, he didn't want to believe it. We didn't want to believe it. And I think and I'm glad at least they gave that time to really stretch that out, to really let that moment kind of like sit. I think that played really well.
It was like the Chronicom version of hiding a zombie bite, like nobody wants to admit. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. No, you don't have to see. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, that person's killing half your, group. And it's just, man, it's just rough. Poor Mac. But at least it looks like he's going to have some fun in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, huge beard.
I know. They're going to be there for a while.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
See, in the chat, we got a couple of things. Rich Room questioning, I wonder, were the Chronicons disguised as Mac parents to just distractions to throw the team off? Kind of feels like it seems they were thrown in. I got the impression they were there to like basically find the Zephyr. They were the infiltration team. If they could get all the way to the Zephyr, then they could expose them or kill people or, do any of that stuff. So that was my guess of what their intent was. See, Haley's Tusk also felt like Mac's storyline was forced. The hugging mom. That was the most uncomfortable moment at the beginning there. When he just walked in and hugged us.
I mean, he broke character. At the end of the day,
thank you.
He did the thing that as a secret agent, as a spy. I mean, but here's the thing, though. I mean, and this goes back to watching older episodes with Mac. Mac, he was a mechanic. He wasn't really the spy guy. The only real spy people who are on this current team right now, you got Coulson, May, and Sousa. Those are really the only 3 people that were actual spies. Fitz and Simmons, they were,
they're the science team, tech, yeah.
Yeah, the science team. Deke is Deke. Daisy was a hacker who, she studied under May and Ward and Coulson and picked up a lot of things, but the only 3 who were classically trained infiltration, we have to have a game face on at all times were May, Coulson, and Sousa.
Mm-hmm. Also, we've made other comments about this being like their Avengers Endgame, and this whole thing for me also felt like it was the Tony meeting his dad moment in Avengers Endgame for Mac's character.
Yeah, nice. There's a good callback there. Yeah,
like the awkwardness that Tony felt. Like I think they handled it a little better in Endgame, but it's Robert Downey Jr. and John Slattery, but it's basically the same kind of thing. It's just like you could tell in Endgame, Tony wanted to like really get deep into it, and Mac just had a human moment.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, like I said, it felt cheesy, but after the fact, I come to realize that they needed that to be like that, so that the impact of the horror would be even more impactful, not just to Mac, but to all of us as an audience, so that we'd be going, no. And it's, again, I think it's one of the reasons why this show is trending, is that they're really putting out some good stuff that people are finally taking notice, which is a shame that they're doing it in the final season.
I mean, well, look, think about how many shows we've watched over the years that never got to make it this far at all. So you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just happy, yes, I'm sad that it's going to be ending, but I'm going to get to have so much time to go back and rewatch and relive some of these moments to be like, you know what, that was awesome. So, yeah, while it wasn't perfect, it's still one of the best damn TV shows on television, period. And as far as comic book shows, it's got to be in the top 5 ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially for a full season show for the most part. I mean, obviously, the last 2 seasons have been shortened 13, but before you're looking 20, 22 episodes with really rare filler. Occasional here and there, some stuff that may or not have worked for the most part, but definitely once they got their feet underneath them, they chock stuff full of in every episode, which you don't often see a lot. You get stuff where they're rehashing storylines, and I never really felt that we had characters for the most part relearning lessons they already learned. They always found something new for them to expand and explore.
Flash.
It's like you read my mind, man.
Oh man, what was that? So coming down something.
All right. Well, let's move on to Mac. We're on. I do want to hit one other subject big before we bring in our fans here to join us. And that is Phil Coulson. Phil's superpower. Diane gets a great moment with Melinda, who gives her finally sort of reveal of what she feels about it. A hot take. Angry at Phil for dying so much because she can't mourn him. It makes so sense, but I never would have thought that were where she was coming from. Yeah, I loved it. And obviously, if you had seen my review, I spent a lot of time talking about that particular interrogation scene. I found it to be a wonderful blend of plot, developing story and character interaction, which then turns and pushes plot. It's a perfect balance of movement right there for me. And then Phil gets that awesome moment with Sybil where he gets to sort of inquire, does the big pro-human speech, and then does his superpower. Because, Phil's gone. He's dead. But is he? Of course he's not. He gets to be Max Headroom next week. There was, again, it's an embracing of that particular viewpoint, which I didn't expect, but makes so much sense. Don, why don't you tune in? What about what are you thinking about Phil's superpower, the power of dying?
I mean, you know what? First off, I got to talk about the end of that, right? Because it was kind of like, all right, he comes out, he sees they're opening up a couple more hunter pods. There's the one hunter coming down the stairs, and he just hits up May, and he's like, hey, listen, I hope you're. What did he say? He's like, I found the ship. I hope you're right about this next part.
Yeah,
and then just boom, and had this been something where this was going to be a real death, obviously it would be a lot more impactful. It almost comes off as comedic because he's just like. Well, I guess time for me to die now. Let's see how I'll come back next time. And I mean, again, just the whole thing of him telling the predictor, "Hey, I haven't been afraid of death in a long time. Just this is what I do. I die, I come back. I'm Kenny from South Park. And just think about it. I mean." He is the glue that holds this whole thing together, right? And I don't even think the Chronicoms actually realize that. Again, I've said this before, and I'll say it to the very last episode. You can't have this show without Phil Coulson. It just doesn't work without him. Period. Point blank.
Agreed.
And I just think that. Him having the wherewithal and the, I guess to testicular fortitude to go into the Chronicom's sort of base of operations and say, hey, look, you guys are going to lose because you have no idea what it means to truly sacrifice. Because you think you have infinite time, you just think you can get away with doing whatever you want. And you don't have to really face the consequences. Whereas human beings, because we know we have a finite time on this earth, or just in the universe, period. We have to really plot out our movements, because if we make the wrong move, there isn't going to be oh yeah, well, I got 1,000 years to make this up. We got one shot to get this right, because if we get it wrong, that is the end. Period. Point blank. And just showing, I like the montage scenes, the different members of the team and what they were going through at the time, and just showing like, yeah, this is as humans what we do. We adapt and survive and go out of our way to make things better. It's not just a selfish quest of, okay, well, we should have this because we should have this. Like, no, we should have it because we have went out of our way to earn it. Because it, at the end of the day, it's going to really mean something once we accomplish our goal.
Right.
Whereas the Chronicoms is like, okay, yeah, we just want to have a place because we feel like we should have a place. Like, there's no end goal for making things better once we have it. It's just, no, we should have it because we should have it. And throughout history, we've seen that people, when human beings take that attitude of, I should have something just because I should have something, it normally turns out very disastrous for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's one of those constant themes, I think, that are brought up a lot in sci-fi as humans versus other races that may live longer or be stronger. Is the always fact is, well, what is it? It's like Roy Batty, the flame that burns half as long burns twice as bright, because there's that limited lifespan. You have to achieve things quickly. You have to see stuff. You can't just plan it over a millennium or 5 millennium. So there does add a certain fuel to humanity's expansion and fire, I suppose. Rob, what about yourself on Phil's superpower of death?
Man, I should have known when he was looking even at the ladder in the tunnel that he wasn't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But I watch it again and I go, yeah, that whole separation of I'm gonna go do my thing. I was like, it's something I usually would catch, but one of the greatest things about how they've handled Clark Gregg and Phil Coulson, I should say Phil Coulson as a character since the beginning, is you've got people like May who are the cavalry, the girl who goes in and kicks everybody's butt. You've got like guys like Ward who do the same thing. You've got Gemma and Simmons, and they're the science people. You've got Daisy who's hacking, and then you've got Coulson. Coulson is the talker. Coulson is the diplomat. Coulson's the guy that once he starts somebody talking, he's working an angle. Even when you go all the way back to Avengers, right? He may have gotten that staff pierced through his heart, but he was getting Loki upset.
Well, yeah.
He got upset and then got the drop on him after he got shot. He still pulled it off. It might not have killed him, but every time throughout this show, you get him in a situation where he is mano a mano against the big bad. In this case, it's Sybil. He just starts talking and he gives this great speech that we're all enthralled with. And then he does something and drops the hammer. And all of a sudden that person who's standing there goes, what just happened to me? And we're all blown up now. Like it just, boom. And they do it again and again and again. And we always fall for it because Clark Gregg is so brilliant at it. Mm-hmm. And the writers write him so well that it's just one of those things that all I wrote down in my notes for the episode was all the things he was saying, And then I realized after the fact, I'm like, man, this is just what they always do, and they always get us, and it's just never gets old. Some tropes and shows get old. Some cliches get old. The bad guy always, don't pull a gun on a character if you don't plan on using it. Those kind of things, those cliches. They've happened a million times, but somehow you get the guy who all he does is talk. I mean, he does more than talk, but when he starts talking, that's when you really need to be watching what's really going on, because he's like doing a, distraction. It's magic with words.
It actually reminds me a lot of Columbo. How Peter Falk would play Columbo he was the unexpected one. And in many ways, Coulson's the same way. He's a little unassuming looking. He's kind of nerdish. He gets excited about things. So I think people underestimate him, and he uses that to sort of sucker people in and get things going. Even when he was talking with Sybil, and he was like, "Why are you answering all my questions?" "Well, why not?" She's like, "Well, this should be fun." Okay. He knows how to work that. And I think you're right. I think Clark Gregg really plays him well, and the writers really know how to work that character. He's the everyman who's got 4 layers going on behind his eyes on what's happening, and I think it's a lovely blend. Chat obviously agreeing heavy. Kevin Waters loves it when Coulson goes into speech mode. Corey, Coulson is the negotiator like Obi-Wan. Perfect reference, I think, right there. His superpower is monologuing and dying. Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, I completely agree with you, Don. This show does not exist without Clark Gregg, without Phil Coulson. I think that's why you had to have Sarge last season, because you couldn't make sense for Coulson to be back this quick, but you needed to have some element of that character there. It doesn't work. You would always feel that empty spot, which, I mean, I guess we would be just like Daisy then. If he popped up LMD or not, you're going to hit the button and make sure that he's back on your team, because he always proves that you need him.
I mean, and the thing about it too, listening to you guys talk about his monologuing, the thing about it is Coulson is the eternal optimist. He is the hope.
Mm-hmm.
Every, like, when people think of the bright future of humanity, Coulson is like the distilled example of someone who always is looking at the bright side of things, in terms of, like, even if the chips are down, he's the guy that's like, no, here's the way that we win. Here's what's on the other side of it. Like, he is the guy who, if you were, like, if he was a coach of like a sports team, you could be down, like, let's say it's the Super Bowl, 2 minutes to go, and you're down by 2 touchdowns, and somehow I think he would be able to will that underdog team to win against those odds, because he would find the speech. He would find the speech that would be like, 2 minutes, 2 touchdowns, we can do this. It's not a problem.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, so let's get some of our fans in. Are you guys ready in the chat? All right, so let's do this. Hopefully this all works out right. All right, so I am sending out in the chat. I don't mind doing this because it's not going to work if you guys watch this in the archive. It's only while we are live. I just put a link to StreamYard in the chat section there. You can go ahead, like I said, click onto that. You're going to get taken to a little bitty room that will have you check your mic. It's going to have you fill in your little bottom third there. Please put your YouTube name on that so I know who you are. That would be nice, I think. And then you're going to hit join, and then you're going to pop up on my little screen here, and we will add you as you come in. Dun, 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 dun. And we will get this going. as soon as anybody's ready to come in. All right. Well, in the meantime, we're going to kind of keep a little bit of this stuff going. I did have one question. Now, obviously, at the end, Mac runs out on his bike, goes about 100 yards, not the long ride. Deke goes after him. The ship jumps again. Well, in fact, even the ship jumping to 1982 in the first place is a bit of a question because weren't they following the Chronicoms? Yes, Corey, please mute YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, please mute that before you join so we don't have feedback and stuff. Thank you. That's an excellent question. But if Phil blew up the ship, the Chronicom ship, and they were following the Chronicom ship through time, why did they jump again?
I mean, well, maybe that wasn't the ship. Maybe there was another actual, because remember, you got to think about it like this. If that were the case, then they would only ever show up at the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen them show up in New York. They showed up. Where was in Area 51 out in Vegas, right?
Right.
And then back in New York again. And now they're in the lighthouse, which lighthouse is upstate New York, I believe, or Connecticut and Massachusetts. It's not in the city. Point is, if that were the only thing that they were tracking, then they wouldn't just be. They would always be in a lighthouse if that were the case.
Okay, fair enough. We've got someone to add on here. Corey, longtime fan watcher. We're going to bring her on right now. Boom. Hi, Corey.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. I have my Peggy hat. And
Nice.
Very Agent Carter-esque.
That is really cool.
Thank you.
That is awesome. Well, so great to have you join us. Wonderful. Do you have any thoughts here as we're talking about why the team is jumping? If they blew up the Chronicom ship, do you think there's more Chronicom ships or something else? Or
I'm not sure. I had other questions.
Sure. Feel free to.
It's possible that they're just messing with the timeline because they know every time they jump that the SHIELD team jumps as well. So if they're already in a bit of a downward spiral with everything that's happened, it's almost an easy way to throw someone off your track. Even though that's not what they're doing because they're following. But
sure.
One of my questions was, is Mac's mom really dead? Because we have that horror underlying vibe, and Mac's always talking about horror movies. And we didn't actually see her die. I mean, he threw her out the plane, which most people would assume, she's dead.
Uh-huh.
But she's also a Chromicon. So do you think she'll come back?
Ooh, that is an excellent question. Who wants to take hold of that one?
Like in all horror movies, you've got to make sure, like in Scream, they always come back.
Yeah.
So it's the double tap, right? You got to see that sucker die. So they could do like a little bit of a horror, like an 80s horror homage, a very Jason Voorhees thing. That would be really, really cool. And that would be the episode to do it. And it's fresh. So it's something that just happened. That would be really cool.
Don, what do you think?
Oh my God. I mean, hasn't Mac been through enough? How dare you?
I know.
Oh my God. I mean, listen, just rip out the man's heart and stomp on it already. Why don't you?
I know. Just twist the knife in a little bit more. Poor Mac.
I had actually thought similar lines when she threw him out because we specifically saw Dad's head get snapped and he is gone. And you're right. We just saw her get pushed out. And all I thought was like,
finish the job.
What if she lands? But what happened? So, once they jumped, I had kind of forgotten about it. But you're right. If next week they do that as kind of like the underlying episode with everything else going on, then you get like a half destroyed mom Chronicon coming after Mac. That would be horrifying and awesome at the same time.
With his history or hatred of robots, it would be a perfect fit, him and Yo-Yo teaming up if they eventually meet up again.
Sure.
He's like, yeah, I hate to tell you this, but your mom, so not cool. Yeah, I guess my other observation was that Marvel really likes to have their heroes have to kill a duplicate of a person they love. So like in Endgame, we had Vision and Wanda. That wasn't a duplicate, but he's a robotic entity, and she had to kill him, and he's saying you need to do it. And with Fitz and Simmons, we had Simmons having to stab Fitz.
Right, big Fitz there, true.
Now we have Mac having to kill his parents. Like maybe it's something Marvel does along with the cutting off of hands.
You're right. That's the repeated. It's the Star Wars losing of hands, right? Then we'll have to have the Marvel killing of alternate versions of selves or others. So
yeah, and it's always someone you love, someone you're connected to. You don't want to,
Listen,
even
at the end of the day, Mac just can't have nice things. All right. Apparently, a lot of other people in the Marvel universe can't either.
Oh dear. Well, just fingers crossed that at the end, Mac will get a happy ending. One of my sort of hypothesis I put up on your last video of how are we going to beat the Chromacons, and I was thinking about the speech that Phil had with Sybil, where they compared the pros and cons of the human race versus the Chromacon race, and I had a crazy idea of what if they managed to beat the Chromacons by actually turning them human, like what we saw with Ada. Like I noticed this scene with all the hunters. They were in pods, and of course Phil blew them up. But we saw with the teaser trailer that she's rebuilding more hunters. So what if they could, and just go with me, reverse the Ada tech and change the Chromacons into humans, and then now they're left with, now you need to fight this battle, but we've taken away what makes you you, and now you get to experience what makes humans humans. And do we have one or two Chromacon turned human that actually stick around?
It would be an interesting solution to that, I think. Yeah.
I mean, that's just me throwing ideas into the wind, but yeah.
We like ideas. We like ideas. All right, we've got someone else. Why don't you stick around for a moment? We're going to add the Rich Room into here. And then let's add Frank as well. All right, so I think we're going to be hitting our maximum of people here. All right, welcome Rich Room and Frank to our chat. We got a full screen of people. How you doing, Rich? It's nice to actually see you, man.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. This is
cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
And Frank, also very nice to have you in. It's so awesome. I've been trading comments back and forth with you guys for ages now, and to get to be able to actually see your faces and hear your voices, it's a lot of fun. Rich, let's start off with you. Did you have any questions or thoughts you wanted to throw out here?
Well, I was thinking about if they're gonna go back to the season 6 plot lines, because I think May and Yo-Yo were the most affected by what happened with Izel and all the other events that happened in season 6. So I wonder if some of those season 6 plot lines are gonna help with with their particular arcs in this season. Some other stuff in the Marvel universe, like Cloak and Dagger or Ant-Man and the Wasp, it seems like back in the fear dimension is where May lost her her most feelings and stuff. So
her
maybe
emotional self, right?
Yeah. So maybe I'm so sorry about my lighting. It's it's crazy in this room.
That's all right. We can hear you just fine.
All right. So maybe one of the plot lines that could help save the world is actually going probably back to that dimension, maybe, or maybe Yo-Yo's the key, because I think
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, the way that the Chronicons were introduced last season, we kind of have that link. My feel is that 6 and 7 are basically two halves of the same season. That's sort of how I've been looking at it. So I have a feeling that we might have something like that very likely pop back forward. Just like in 4 at the very end, we had Ghost Rider in the beginning, then he disappeared to the LMD and then shows up at the end to help tie up the Ada framework storyline. So my guess is they're probably going to have something. Rob, Don, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, obviously, this is pretty much kind of a continuation of season 6 for the most part. But I don't know if they're going to wrap it up with the fear dimension, because I think that if they were going to do something like that, they probably would have introduced it a little earlier. I think that once they blew up that temple, I think that was the end of that, because the Chronicoms really weren't a big thing in season 6. It was kind of more like, all right, well, we're introducing them so when they come back later as like the big bads of the series, it won't just be like, well, where the hell did they come from? So that's why I think they introduced the whole thing of the different factions, where it's like you have Enoch and the people who kind of just do the chronicling, and then you have the hunters, and then obviously the predictor. And I'm pretty sure she's probably not the only one that does that, but she just might be the highest one up that does that kind of function. So I think that season 6 was just more so trying to set up that whole thing, so this way, when we got here, we can know, okay, this is what the Chronicoms can do on a basic level. They can live for thousands of years. They can travel through time to a certain extent. And before, while they didn't mess with the timeline, they were more observers. Now, because of the things that happened with Izel and the Shrike, this has put them in a situation where now they've gotten desperate to where they're saying, okay, well, as far as we knew, nothing was supposed to happen to our planet. It was supposed to kind of be safe. And then Izel shows up, messes everything up, and they're like, okay, well, instead of them trying to figure out how to rebuild, they're like, well, it's just a lot easier to just take over Earth. And then they find out, nope, it's not as easy as we thought. And it's even harder now because they underestimated humans.
Those pesky Earthlings.
Yeah, so, this is definitely a Scooby-Doo situation where it's like, I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you and your meddling, LMD. So, go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, Corey, go ahead.
I just wanted to pop in and, okay, if we have time travel, I know we're following a stream, but if they've invented time travel, can't they just go back in time to before their planet exploded and save it?
Well, it's looking like for some reason they can't go. It's looking like for some reason there might be something in that particular time period that they can't change.
Right. Or maybe it's the Marvel timeline sort of approach of you can't change your own timeline. Like your history has already happened, but you can't go back and change it, but you can change the future.
Yeah, it's a parallel universe type kind of traveling idea. In some ways, that's the thing with time travel. Often they make up the rules to have the convenience, like, oh, you can't go back to the same place you've already been, or it has to be within your lifetime, or it has to be, there's always some particular rules. But yeah, I think that's actually a nice whole, good question right there. Frank, you've been waiting very patiently there. Oh, yeah. Rob, did you have something to add?
Okay, I just wanted to address both what Rich and Corey were talking about. What Rich was saying about the fear dimension made me think about what Corey was saying about making them human. Is that they talk about putting memories into Chronicom so that they can adapt. It makes them better at being infiltrators. It makes them know us better. It makes us predictable. And she talks about all the percentages. What I like about that idea that they both came up with that it kind of melded together is, what if they were to put memories into these Chronicoms that would kind of mess with their heads and their way of thinking? If they put the right kind of memories into somebody's head that's so disturbing that makes them feel human, at least makes them feel or see how they, you know, like what they're missing. Because if they have those memories and they're getting better at adapting at us, then they would be able to mimic our emotions. What if those emotions started coming true? And it also, then you could also talk about the themes of what May has no emotions. What if May's emotions come flooding back? What if her loss of Coulson comes flooding back, and those memories, those kind of memories, get into the Chronicoms as a collective, like a virus?
It's like by attempting to mimic humans, they start to become human, and thus they adapt our foibles and limitations and the experience of being human there.
Yeah.
I like it.
Instead of an army of daisies, we could have an army of Coulsons. Just put Coulson's brain into all of them. But like, they all want to save the world now.
They were all just appreciative nerds, and wouldn't the world be a better place with a bunch of those around? Okay, like I said, Frank, you've been very patient there. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Did you have any questions or comments that you wanted to throw out?
Well, I originally had 3 points, but now I have 4 thanks to Don. All right. On Don's last thing about them and being able to go back in time and do their, save their planet or take over our planet. If they're Chromicons and they don't need to sleep, they don't need to eat, why can't they just take over the moon? No one's there.
There's how it should have ended for Man of Steel, which I love, where they bring up at the very end. I think Loki brings it up to Zod. Why didn't you just take Mars? You could have had the whole planet. I think that's a good question. I think maybe the Chronicoms actually blame humanity for what happened to them. So I think it's not just taking over the planet. I think they want us out of the picture as well. At least that's sort of what I felt. Rob, do you anything on that?
No. I got really lost in it. I'm sorry. I got really lost into what you were saying, and then you asked me, and I blanked. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Frank. You deserve better than that.
I am guilty of that happening as well. I don't like to admit it. Don, what about you? Do you have any insights or thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, you know what? I do believe that they blame humans for that, and that's partially the reason why they're like, yeah, screw you guys. We're just going to take over your planet because, again, they feel as though we don't deserve it. It's like, look, we lost our planet, and I guess they couldn't figure out a way to defeat the Shrike. So
right.
that was part of the reason why they lost the planet in the beginning. But it's like, yeah, you know what? Had we not interacted with S.H.I.E.L.D. to help them save Earth in the future, we wouldn't have this problem. So we're like, you know what? Yeah. Since we have, since in our twisted logic, you are to blame for us losing our planet, we're just going to take yours.
Right.
So it's a sense of entitlement.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
selfish. It is selfish.
Yeah. If you think about Sybil's speech to Coulson, it was all about, well, yeah, we live longer than you, so we should have this. Since our lifespan is way longer than yours anyway, your lives are fleeting compared to ours, so why shouldn't we just take this from you? You don't deserve to have this thing that you can't hold on to. We are basically infinite, in our existence. So yeah, we should have this place.
Yeah.
Okay. Point number 2, Don. Just to just to let you know, when you were talking about the blood earlier and how you noticed it back in season 3, it was also in this season, actually in this episode, when she pulled the glass out.
Sure did. Yes.
Very
yes.
true.
Glass out of the hand. Yes.
Third thing, and I'm hoping I'm not the only one who noticed, but when Coulson died, there was another body coming down the stairs at the time. But
I don't stop.
what was it? It wasn't. I don't think it was a Chronicon because they had dispatched all of them up top beforehand.
No, that was, I believe, that was probably the one that Mac had bashed the head through the concrete. Or it could have been.
But didn't the director at the time shoot him with that gun?
No, he shot the other one, the one that we're mostly familiar with, that took the police officer's face in the first episode. That was the one that he shot. Then there was the other one that we're not too familiar with, that might have shown up in another episode or two, that Mac was fighting. That was the one he put his head through the column, and I think that was the one that probably got back up again and was crawling down the ladder. But remember, there also could have been other ones that that Stoner just hadn't encountered yet, because May told him, "Hey, go clear out the base." Now that Stoner kind of a little knows what to look for to a certain extent, it was like, all right, he can
Right.
everybody and say, okay, boom, you're Chronicom, all right, you're human, you're good, and whatever. But I think that it was just more so of them trying to figure out, well, at least with the Stoner thing, he figured out how to do that. But the Chronicoms, remember, they were still trying to wake up more hunters too. So there might have been a thing of where Sybil might have been able to send out an alert to anybody who was still around, like, hey, come down, Phil Coulson is here. And so that just might have been, maybe not a distress signal, but just a warning, like, hey, Phil Coulson is here right now. Somebody come and get him.
But I didn't think that she could interact with them unless they were interacting through that machine.
It's hard to tell. We weren't really given like the limitations of what she can do, because she's interacting with the ship on some level. I mean, yes, it's inside that whole thing, but it might have been something where she's able to interact with the computer mainframe that was in the ship. And you got to think about it. Them being robots, they're probably all linked into the ship at some basic level. So if a signal gets sent out, instead of it being something over a radio, it's already inside of their head. So it might have been a thing where when Coulson dipped out of there, it's like, oh, okay. Or even while he might have still been in there, it might have been like, hey, okay, Coulson may not be able to see this, but on the back end, or on like whatever their main console is, there might have been a call going out. Hey, Coulson's here. You guys come back and apprehend him or something.
All right.
Yeah, I figured it was an alarm system could have just gone off and just like invader, in the ship.
All right. My last point is about the time travel.
Yeah, Rich, did you have a thought?
Or it could be something as simple as the like a boom mic, and like you sometimes see a boom mic in a shot. Maybe it was just a person from the show that was not supposed to be in that shot coming down the ladder. It could be a rare instance of a goof that just got left in. Because I thought the same thing. It's like, why are they purposely showing somebody coming in? Maybe they just missed it in editing. It really could just be something as simple as that.
It was a grip. He was up adjusting some lights. He thought they yelled cut.
My
Maybe.
last point is about Mac.
Yeah.
And when he was sitting by on his motorcycle, the question everybody had was, well, why did they jump so quick? But we don't know that they did. We don't know how long he was out there, because when you see Deke out looking for him, he's already outside. And you don't know how long it took him to do whatever he was doing inside before he went looking for Mac, or how long that decision took before he went out and looked for him. So he could have been out there for, who knows, a day. He could have been riding around, and this is the first time he got back and was just surveying things when Deke said, screw it, I'm going to go find him. It's been, a week or a day or whatever. So it may not have been that quick of a jump.
Well, it just seemed as though they that they weren't expecting to jump when they did. It seemed as though, like, whatever the countdown was definitely interrupted.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, oh, well, shit, we thought we had more time for Mac to come back, and the next thing you know, they're gone. And forgive if you happen to hear fireworks in the background, 4th of July, all other kind of stuff.
My thoughts were basically much like what happened in the previous episode. Is the Chronicoms did a quick jump that they weren't expecting, because even when Deke is walking down, it's not like he's running after Mac. Like, hey, it's counting down. When Gemma pops on the radio, it sounds very much like something happened unexpectedly and the clock changed. So my guess is the Chronicoms did what they did last episode and did a spontaneous jump, and they had got sort of sucked behind it as they do. Corey?
Can we talk about Sousa and Daisy? Because we didn't really get into that.
There's
a lot going on there.
Of course.
And Nathaniel, oh my word.
Of course. Well, let us know your thoughts. Why don't you lead us on that one?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess it was nice to finally get Sousa's backstory as a watcher of Agent Carter. It was nice to see a little bit more of his past. I was expecting more of a Captain America-esque story of, like, I got shot and then, like, this guy came over and it was Steve, and or something more heroic, as opposed to, hey, this dude who talks a lot and is a bit of a jerk, but he saved my life anyway. But that also ties in with Phil's kind of superpower of talking with people and using words to help, right? He didn't have to take out a whole Hydra base. He literally was just a friend for that period of time. And I'm assuming he died, because Sousa mentions, 1 minute I was on the stretcher and the next minute he wasn't. So I'm assuming he was killed during that trip back, and that's why Sousa mentions, consider this me forwarding on the task, and I'm gonna do the same for you. So I thought that was kind of neat. Sousa has a lot of Steve-like qualities, I'm noticing.
For sure.
So I understand why Peggy liked him. But with Daisy, with Skye, we know that her mom went through a similar experience, right? Her powers were fiddled with and she was tortured. I guess that's just my observations of it. Was nice to get Sousa's backstory, and also remember that he's familiar with the super soldier program. So him seeing Daisy with her powers, he would probably think like, oh, this is another new super soldier program. I need to talk to her about it. He doesn't know about the Inhumans yet, right? But
but Hydra did, which I thought was kind of interesting, because Nathaniel brings it up immediately about being inhuman in the midst of that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, that was unexpected. I wasn't expecting Nathaniel to have that much info. Rich, did you have any ideas on our Quake Daisy Sousa adventure?
Yeah, piggybacking off of Corey, like, do you think like the Chronicons are gonna use like these inhuman powers for their advantage? Because they're like robots, but they're not. Um, they seem so humanoid in like certain parts, so maybe they could do something with that type of power, or mix it in with their own super soldier serum.
Well, we know that Ada did that, remember? She stole all
Yeah,
those powers. So
yeah. But like
Oh,
all those inhuman powers and all
but
that. Yeah.
wait. But
Mhm.
Ada was a life model decoy. She wasn't a Chromicon.
Right.
Chromicons are more mechanical than they are human. As in, they don't bleed, they don't have organs, they don't need to eat, they don't have a heart. So all the things that the Inhumans use to become inhuman, they don't have.
Right, because it's genetic.
it's genetic.
effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
But I mean, they could certainly give themselves some type of powers. I mean, as an Iron Man type technological area, you know, they already have this strength. They don't. I mean, they can die, but it's much rougher to kill them. They certainly can't be shot. I believe you get hunters that integrate like cannons into their arms or something.
Right.
I mean, they could do something like that. But yeah, I think if they used Inhumans, it would be like Hydra did. I would think of like as machines or as chess pieces to use on the board, as opposed to something they themselves take. Yeah.
Also,
well, yeah.
like I heard some reports last year. I was reading on like some news articles. Maybe Haley Atwell as Agent Carter will return. I just don't know when. But who knows? It's hopeful thinking.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think there'd be any complaints from this fandom if Peggy pops up.
Not for me.
One quick question about the hunters, because we mentioned that the hunters have different powers than the other Chromicons. Like Enoch is he's
Anthropologist,
he studies history, so he's not a fighter. The hunters are supposed to be the deadliest, but I was a little bit disappointed with their throwdown last week. I mean, they were tough, but they weren't as terrible a menace as I was expecting them to be. I mean, Mac was literally punching one in the face, and metal human.
That's a good point. Rob, you got any thoughts on our Chronicom standoff there? Why aren't the hunters as kick-ass as we're expecting them to be? Or are they?
Maybe we're just supposed to. Yeah. Well, I think that we didn't have like a lot of things in this episode. We didn't have a lot of time. We were trying to jam so many plots in here that I think that certain things like that we'll see more strength from those characters, those Chronicons. I think when it gets really more dire, if you couldn't believe it could get more dire, I think we'll see a lot more of that. Because yeah, I and also I think they just really needed to let Mac bash some people apart and just let it be like what it is. Because I agree. I was thinking the same thing through the fights. I'm like, man, like their punches should be way more effectful and impactful on us than ours are on them. Like even when they snapped the neck, I was like, it's made of metal, man. Like that should be a lot harder to do. Yeah. But for emotional impact and just story time, because they were on a ticking clock in this episode, literally. I think that they just had to kind of like let your suspension of disbelief be taken down a bit so that you get more of an emotional response from what was happening.
Okay, very cool.
I mean, Phil punched a wall. Remember when he first got his hand and he was mad about, I don't remember the scene, but he like punched and literally put a print into a cement, and Yo-Yo's pretty, she just breaks things. So you'd think they would be a bit more, maybe they're just waiting till it's actually serious. Right now they're just like, you're playing with us, stop bothering us.
All right. Well, see, we're about quarter after here. I think maybe we'll head towards wrap up. Did you guys have any other, Frank, Rich, Corey, did you guys have any other questions before we...
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rich.
like this was a talking point that I think Don brought up. Like like
It's your
yeah,
fault.
yeah. No, but like no, this was something like weeks ago. They added 2 more seasons to the show overall for a reason. I asked D like this own version of that question. Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
like everything is all about Disney Plus now? But I was wondering if there will be a future of Marvel on ABC as a network.
Don, why don't you take that one?
Mhm.
Since you started the conversation.
Um, I think that they're probably not going to do that. I mean, the way that it looks, as though Kevin Feige wants to keep everything under one umbrella that he controls, and while they haven't fully kind of disavowed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's one of those things that I think is going to either they will, find some way to insert it in canon,
Mhm.
or it's going to live in its own pocket universe, the same way like Cloak and Dagger. I mean, which
Mhm.
Cloak
Yeah.
and Dagger is still supposed to be part of the same thing. The Ghost
Mhm.
Rider series,
Yeah.
Helstrom, even the Netflix stuff was all supposed to be part of this. But I mean, they've said, all of the Defenders are going to get rebooted with most likely different actors.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, so I'm thinking that at this point, Disney Plus is going to be kind of the proving ground as to whether or not certain things will get movies later on. So it's like,
Mhm.
all right, if this does well here, if we scale up the budget and it does well here, can it translate into a big blockbuster movie at some
Right.
point? Because like if you look at what they're doing with like some of the like second tier Avengers, you got Falcon and Winter Soldier, you
Mhm.
got Wanda,
And one division, yeah.
and even with Loki. I mean, think about how
Mhm.
popular Loki is, but instead of them
Mhm.
deciding let's give him a movie, they're like, no, okay. In case things don't kind of play out the way we think they might, let's give him a series first. See if we can build him into someone that can possibly hold down a movie by himself. Because you got to remember, this is pre Ragnarok. Loki, pre even for the Dark World Loki. This is
Oh yeah.
still this is still evil. I want to take over the Earth, and I'm actually working for Thanos. Look, so I think that there probably isn't going to be any more Marvel on ABC because we have Disney Plus and because Disney Plus is so popular. And also, you got to think about it, right? The Mandalorian was the thing that really set
Mhm.
fire to this whole thing of, okay, well, we don't need to do regular TV, and we also don't actually need to do movies because I don't know if you guys have looked at the behind the scenes, but the technology that they've developed with regards to using the Unreal Engine
Mhm.
to
Oh yeah.
do the backgrounds and all that. That's a Disney thing now, so they
Mhm.
can use that for any TV show they want or any movie they want going forward. And just taking that, scaling up or scaling down the technology to use and say, okay, cool, we can do these TV shows. It'll save on the budget instead of having to build sets. We just have somebody program it into the computer and throw it up on a big screen, and we're done. Um, and I look, I'm like going all around the world with this. Point is, I think that uh, Agents of Shield was a very special moment that will not be recreated on network television.
Yeah.
Period. I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
that We got the CW. CW is what it is, and that's because DC Universe or whatever the DC streaming app failed miserably.
Yeah.
CBS, I'm not sure what's going on with their whole Star Trek thing. Personally, I think CBS kind of screwed themselves with the Star Trek thing. I don't think it's as popular as they thought it was going to be. But Disney is doing gangbusters right now, and until a series actually like falls hard, they're going to be like, oh, okay, we're fine. It. What we don't want to invest $200 million in on a movie, we can take maybe half of that, put it into a movie level series, and put that on Disney Plus. And if the numbers do well, then fine. Maybe we'll take these characters and throw them in a movie and see how. Now the question is, when are they going to do that? Because once we see them take a series from Disney Plus, a Marvel series or any series, and decide, okay, we're going to give this character or this group of characters a movie, and if that movie does well, then I think there's going to be a synergy like we've never seen before. And that is the thing that we're, that I'm actually waiting to see what they're going to do with that. But Agent Shield, I think, like I said, it was a special moment in time that I think will not ever be repeated.
Yeah, I think they've discovered that there just isn't a market on ABC. That's more Midwest. It's more family stuff. It's more Law and Order type procedurals. That's what they want on network television. If they're going to do any superhero stuff, they want to, especially like I said, if it's under Feige's control, he's going to want to keep a consistent look. They'd much rather do short seasons on Disney Plus if they're going to do anything for any show than to try and do the network thing. I think they're going to let CW do their TV superhero adventures and then go, hey, if it's going to be Marvel, you're going to expect this quality of show and these types of actors. Whether or not they use any of the Shield stuff, I think it's doubtful. But it's hopeful if this proves well, if there gets some streaming, if it gets pulled over into Disney Plus just in their library and it gets attention, they could easily integrate it into some of their little streaming stuff, the small little shows, even just do character bits and see if anybody likes it and then build from there.
Right. I'm gonna miss you guys like doing these reviews. D, Rob, and Don, y'all are great.
Yes.
I think that's why I'm most concerned. Yeah.
Well, we just got to keep doing this for other shows then.
Oh yeah. I gotta watch other shows, including The Mandalorian.
And I'm going to be going back to reviewing the old seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. soon. I already got the 2 seasons done in my archive, and I just started 3. So when this is over, hopefully I'll be going back to reviewing season 3 through 5 that I never covered before. But yeah, we'll be doing other things as well. So
just a point, real quick.
Yeah, Frank. Yeah.
I hate to point at Don, but I was listening to Don earlier, and he happened to mention about Ghost Rider, and then it hit me in the head. What if that's the way they bring Coulson? They return Coulson back to the show now that he's gone, is fulfill that deal that he made with Ghost Rider and bring him back strictly as a Ghost Rider character.
You mean like on a Ghost Rider TV show, or bring him back on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Ghost Rider?
Bring him back on Agents as Ghost Rider to close up that circle of the deal he made with him back to seasons.
I mean, well, they did listen. As soon as he got activated, he mentioned the deal. So take the deal. You're dead anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm expecting that deal should pop back up on some level here, and that you're right. The way that they're bringing everything around, that seems to be at least something they should touch on towards the end there. Whether he becomes a Ghost Rider and they bring him onto that, I'm not sure. Corey, did you have a thought on there?
Not on that, but I had like a final question, because we know this is going towards a season finale. They want to close all the loops and all the sort of loose plot ends, possibly linking in with Avengers New York battle, because we did see the actor Ender, who plays Daniel Souza, also showed up briefly as a police officer. So whether or not he goes undercover as the police officer to pull off a time jump mission, we don't know. But what character would you like to see return before the end of this season? Like Bobby Hunter, Peter, I think it was, or he played Cyclops. He was like a Cyclops character right at the very beginning.
It was,
Mike, the one with the shades.
Mike Peters. Mike Peters. So what character would you like to see come back?
I think everybody will agree with me when I say Trip.
Oh, yes.
Would love to see Trip again.
But he's God.
I know. I honestly, if you're going to bring anybody up, and I'm bringing them because they're a pair, is you got to bring Bobby and Hunter back. If you bring one of them, I'm happy. I would love to, even just a small bit at the end, some final thing. If they're calling in all of the people they know and they need their backup team for whatever. I am so upset that they were taken off the show and they never got their own. Please bring them back. Rob, do you have any thoughts? Who would you like to see?
It can be in the Marvel universe too.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I think Haley Atwell's a given, but and I know that people probably aren't going to agree with this, but I loved this. I loved him as Grant Ward. I want Brett Dalton back. I really do. Rewatching the series has made me appreciate his character more, and I think that there's some interesting things you can do with him if we're going backwards, and if we're going through time. I think there's something to be said about maybe messing with how he was made into Hydra, or just maybe getting him on his side. I like seeing him as kind of a good guy in the framework. I just want to see Grant Ward back in some fashion, even if it's maybe not Brett, but like a younger version of him when he's a kid, learning from Bill Paxton's character. But I think he's been gone since season 3, and I think we have to give him like something in this, even if it's not much, because he was a big part of like the big twist in season 1 was him being bad.
Yeah.
And they got him out of the show before it stretched on too long. It went on perfect moments, but now that it's been like this amount of time and he's been gone, and yeah, he showed up in the framework, but they really need to do something more with him. And I think he would love to come back, I betcha.
Oh, yeah, and we'd have to have him. And I always loved the thing that they did in the framework with him, too, is showing that ultimately it was who came to him in prison. If it was Hand, he turns into good. If it's that he turns out bad. And I love how they sort of sink that down to a really poignant moment. And yeah, I would love to see Brett Dalton back. What about you, Don? You look like you got all set up there.
Yeah. I was actually looking for my little Hydra pin. Yeah, because you know what, Rob, spot on. We need Grant Ward back. Original Shield level 7 member. I mean, come on. He was the guy who introduced us to the show. It was literally, he first seen, yeah, we're going to tell you about this. What do you know about the Battle of New York? What do you know about Phil Coulson, this, that, and the third? It was like, and then Phil Coulson steps out of the shadows, welcome to level 7. I mean, oh, man. And even though he had the whole, I mean, look, he was a psychopath, right? He was a psychopath. But I just remember watching,
our psychopath.
Yeah, I just remember I
Mhm.
watched a couple episodes last night with him, and I'm just like, damn, I missed this guy. So, you know, even if it's just for the finale, we need Ward back.
I'd like to see Daisy's dad make an appearance. I think it would be fun if he shows up before he goes sort of off the rails and
Mhm.
actually plays a role in like helping Daisy somehow or helping the team, and sort of show that he is a good man and
You-
he has.
You could have
You're
Kyle
being screwed
MacLachlan
over.
sitting in the corner drinking coffee, and I would watch that. Yeah.
How's this for an ending? Picture this. Coulson's gone. Mac decides he's had enough. He's going out on his bike and he's gone. He's done. They need a new director. Daisy doesn't want the job. All of a sudden, in comes a new director. There's Nick Fury standing right there. Welcome to S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
Samuel L. Jackson will take the work. He'll come in at any point. They can DH him and everything. They can fit him at any time.
Did you say paycheck?
All right. Well, Frank, yeah, Corey. One
I
last
just have
thing?
one quick question. Okay, so now that Mac's parents have died, we know that they're dead in this timeline, at least with the time jumps. Whether or not we're going to fix the timeline, I hope we can. What does this mean for Mac's future? Because now Mac, as a child, is parentless. Is that going to change who he becomes on that timeline? Will that even affect who he is now? I mean, we're assuming he's already had his own history. He's lived his life up until his current age as director. So
Right.
is that going to have an effect? Are we going to have him meet a Mac who's very different?
Well, the way that I have seen them, at least the way they've been doing time travel with this, is once you're time traveling, you are removed from the time stream, which is why Deke can exist, even though his particular future no longer does. So Mac wouldn't change, but yes, there should be effectively another Mac growing up in the world that would have a different experience than his. So he would be basically skewed, but you could say that possibly for everyone. Yeah. That there are alternate versions now because so much the time line has changed or altered or anything like that. So that would be my thought. Rob, Don, can I quick thought on that?
Yeah. I think that there is another version of Mac running out there, who's essentially now an orphan. And I think that if you were to run into Mac now, it would probably be he probably wouldn't be an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it would be a lot more just him and his brother doing their thing because at this point that would be all they have.
Right.
Maybe they're both police officers somewhere or something.
Something. Well, mechanic seems to be the family, the family bit there. All right. Well, Frank, Rich, Corey, thank you so much for joining us. We are definitely going to do this again. This was a blast. So, do you guys want to pitch out anything, or where we can find you? Want to say any last thoughts? Take 30 seconds. Corey, why don't we go with you first?
Where they can find me?
Anything you do anything you want to say anything you want to last lines, I guess. Usually people give out their links, but not everyone's a YouTuber here. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I do have a poetry channel on YouTube called Soothing Scriptures, and I am an author. So you can find me at CL Shoemaker or at Literature with Charm. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Rich, anything from you want to shout out to people?
I only do a few comedy sketches. I haven't been filming a while, but they're just commentary on the entertainment industry. It's just short, quick sketches, comedic takes. So my YouTube channel is the same as my username, The Rich Room. So yeah, there's only a few videos on there. So yeah.
Very cool, man. Keep it up. Keep it up. Frank, you want to say anything to the fandom here?
Well, yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. I haven't utilized it since I moved places, I'm getting the studio reset up. But I do have some previous shows on. I reviewed a lot of DC stuff. Yeah, I know.
We like DC too. It's not war here.
The channel name is Coffee Hour Productions, if anyone's interested.
Wonderful. Well, thanks very much. Gonna say goodbye to y'all now, and then we're gonna sort of close things up. So we'll catch you
Thank
later.
you, guys.
Good.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace out.
Peace.
Okay. I gotta be sure to hit the right buttons. All right. Well, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
All
to do
right.
it for the season finale.
Oh yeah, no, we're definitely doing for that. We'll have a lot to talk about, and of course, I'm sure next week we'll have quite a few. We'll try and catch as many '80s references as we can through this show. We'll do a countdown. All right. Well, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap things up. Don, did you want to say any last words? Tell people where to find you, any of that stuff.
Well, real quick, just Daisy and Sousa. Interesting, small nitpick. How in the world was this guy able to get the power so quickly?
Dude, yeah.
That was a little, because Whitehall. Oh, okay, what the hell was that? Something just flew right past my face. Yeah, Daniel Whitehall, did the experimentation on Jiang, and that was, a little more gruesome than what happened with Daisy. But yeah, a little nitpick, but I wasn't thrown off by it too much. But as far as where you can find me, obviously you can find me here Friday nights for fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. Also, you can find me on my channel at Adon of Ice and Fire, and you can find me on Twitter at iDonWillie. It's IDONWILLI. Rob, take it away.
All right. Well, then I guess since he talked about Sousa and that, we need to talk about how Gemma just needed a memory fix, and that's all this was. That's all that was she just needed a reboot on her memory this whole time. Very succinct. Nothing like any of us thought. We were so impassioned about all the different things that it could be. We were talking about time tethers in space.
That's the love we have, man.
I think this is the one instance where our theories were better than theirs. Because that was just like, Bail Organa saying, just remove the protocol droid's memory. Boom, done. That was like how quick that was. But you can find me on my channel, Smirking Gun Reviews, where we just put up the review for Hulu's The Great. We're going to be doing a review for the Robert Kirkman, maybe not so one-shot Negan Lives comic book tomorrow. And you can find us on Twitch playing Jedi Fallen Order right now on Smirking Gun Plays.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I guess I'll throw up my 2 cents. Yeah, love the whole Gemma quick reveal. Can't wait to meet Diana. Or is it just the name of a bot and we'll never meet? I don't know. I did like Nathaniel as a character. I thought him getting taken out was quick, and I completely agree. Just taking some fluids and that's transferring powers seems really... That doesn't seem quite right there. Last, though, I did want to end on one final thing. A little quote from Coulson, since we're doing Coulson quotes. When he gets his shield, talking about who S.H.I.E.L.D. is, when he got his badge, when Fury hands him his badge, he swore an oath. We all did. To serve when everything else fails, to be humanity's last line of defense, to be the S.H.I.E.L.D. So please, wear your face mask. Be the S.H.I.E.L.D. It's about protecting other people, not protecting yourself. Thanks very much for joining us. We will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. I know it's Marvel, but I got to say it that way. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. We hit so many buttons.